we are just here to talk on the issue of collecting. We keep hearing collecting royalties, especially from the publishing, and we have the different multiple CMOs doing what we do not understand, but or claim that they are collecting, but we do not really, we can't see anything happening. So this is not just another conversation where we just come and debate and move, but it's more like a conversation that when we are done, what's the next? From the conversations we have here, we are saying what's next? What can we do to make sure that at the end of the day, we have societies that are collecting our income? Yeah, we'll start with Obi Asika's point of view, especially with challenges facing the challenges we are facing with collecting royalties with the CMOs. Yeah, so Mr. Obi Asika, I would like to hear your opinion on challenges we are facing as bodies, CMOs.
The CMO issue has been a long-standing issue, and I think from my perspective and from a lot of people's perspective, it's been a great pity that whilst we've been growing significantly at one level, in this important backstop for the industry, we have been having issues, and I think a lot of those issues are really around integrity and also around focus, right? But there has been a fair amount of work done, specifically by RELP, the Record Label Proprietors Association, and as well as interested stakeholders, both in the public and private sector. And one of the things I would like to highlight is that in the last sort of couple of months, I was actually involved in a meeting, which I cannot say too much about, but it's a meeting that concerns the copyright levy, and to say that we do expect that by the end of this year, going into January, there will be resolution on the copyright levy, and that will come live. And what that will mean is that there will begin to be significant disbursements to rights holders from the first quarter 2026, based on the copyright levy. At the same time, we are trying to drive some level of resolution between parties, and specifically at this point in time, that would be MCSN, RELP, and the Nigerian Copyright Commission, to make sure that we have CMOs that people are happy with. Obviously, the situation with COSON is sub judice, so to speak, but they do remain suspended. And my feel about the whole thing is just about, it is critical that executives who are in the sector, label owners, publishers, and artists are also vocal about these issues, because this is where a significant proportion of the value lies. And in terms of measurements, we just published, which I will ask Diary to share to everybody here, we just published the first Nigerian Music Intelligence Report with a company called Regal Stone Capital, which puts the market size in 2024 at about $600 million. Now, this is true data, and we've spoken to a lot of players, both at the DSPs, both at publishing, at labels, at artists, live promoters, and the rest of it. But one of the things you will see when you read the report, if you haven't read it, is just the gaps in terms of the opportunity side, right? So there's still a lot of gaps. There's still a lot of things that need to be resolved. And just my contribution, even though I know you're talking more about CMOs, as you all are gathered there today, I want you all to be thinking about products and merchandise. We've built these massive vehicle called Afrobeats with enormous brands pushing it, but we have not delivered product and merchandise. So Afrobeats culture has enormous attention, but we're missing a core dimension that enables it to monetize, which is product, merchandise, apparel, clothes, gear, and both physical and digital. I think this is something really important, not just for massive mega stars, but even if you're just a YouTube creator, streamer, whatever it is, You really need to be able to look at these things and look at why are we not doing that. And I'm not just talking about the music industry. I'm really talking all across Nigeria. Our sports teams, our universities, we don't have this, and it's a big opportunity. And I think it's something that, as business people who are focused on this sector, it is in your hands to resolve and take up the opportunity. But in terms of the collecting society situation, what is happening is such that, like I said, around the copyright levy, there's some work being done that will enable that to go live in the first quarter of next year. We also are hoping to see some resolution with a couple of the players, which will also then enable further monetization. The key thing for everybody to understand is that whilst this might not be a sexy conversation, so to speak, it is a critical conversation because there's the back end where your money lies. 400 radio stations, maybe 200 television stations, multiple locations, over 10,000 hotels. We can no longer, it's not acceptable that we're generating less revenue than a Botswana, for example, or a Kenya. Much, much smaller countries are generating much more domestic revenue in terms of rights and royalties and collection. So I think that is something to look at. Let's stop gazing into the distance of America and UK and Europe. That was what I wanted to say, and I hope it arrives well to all of you. I wish you good deliberations. I wish I could stay all along, but I'll pop back in because of the amount of people in this room. I think you guys are going to be here for a while.
Thank you, and we hope to see you before we... Yes.
Just to add one more thing before I go. NCAC is actually the music agency of government. So for those of you who are seeking to collaborate with government about anything, our doors are open and we're ready to listen. Okay?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We can have the conversation, they're not transparent with that and all of that. But I think it's very paramount that we look at, in terms of transparency, what exactly is the issue and what can be done. So like I said, it's just, I'm going to allow the mic flow. Whoever wants to start the conversation will start and we'll just pick it up from there.
So when it comes to transparency, let me just save everybody the headache before we start pointing the fingers. Maybe it's a COSON matter, it's an MCSN issue, it's an NCC issue. I believe we have a structural issue. And when you have a structural issue, and it's just like having an internal medical condition, and you're seeing the external symptoms and you're trying to apply medication. And you see that symptom popping up different places. It's not going to work. I've worked this lane 10 years in good faith, worked with everybody in good faith, even invested personal funds in the tunes of millions. I'll tell you that the issue is not the players. Yes, we're all to blame because we've not been able to come together, discuss the issues, profile solution, and implement the solution. Everybody has always been, Nigerian music industry has always been each man for his own. That's always been the problem. Everybody's always looking out for their own label. So, and at some point, we left a segment of the industry unattended to, which is the copyright segment. Everybody's active in the recording segment. Everybody's active in the performance segment. And we're excelling. Global proliferation everywhere, taking over America. As a matter of fact, we're even threatening the hip-hop genre. We have left, we displaced dancehall. As if that wasn't enough signal that dancehall reggae got terminated from Billboard because of Afrobeats. We didn't take that as a cue. There was a time we were talking about we need to brand our music. Didn't they brand it for us in London? So see, if we don't take the action that needs to be taken, foreigners will come and set up hybrid structures to help us regulate this madness. So I want to save everybody the issue. Let's know what the structural issue is. Let's not point fingers because you can point finger to, so you point finger to yourself because you didn't participate as label. Yeah, no, NCC is complicit. Everybody is complicit. Thank you.
I don't think it's a money problem because always people say, oh, we don't collect enough. I think we have a system issue. So why do I say system issue? We're trying to solve a problem with a 1980 solution. So think about everybody that comes and offers publishing solution is an old solution. Give you an example. We're dealing with one issue where somebody we're suspecting registered some of our talent is collecting money in the UK. And when I have conversations, this is a normal practice where people are ripping other artists for like $200,000, $300,000. Because again, we're looking at the old system that hasn't served us. So I feel where we are, we don't have a music problem. Give you an example, I know an artist, Uncle Obi just talked about the total worth of the industry for last year, about 600 million. I know an artist who is negotiating about $600 million for 1 year deal. I could talk about, you just signed one of the biggest distribution this year. I could guess how much the figures were. Again, I think we have a system problem. We need to now start figuring the system on how to make it work for us for today's problem. I think that maybe if Andrew is not working, let's move to OS. Because again, when we have this conversation, we still go back to the same problem before. Okay, how do we collect? No. Again, context. Why performance is working, why music is working, is because the younger people decided and said, this is how we're going to serve our music. We're not doing the normal channel, which is, this is what I do. When someone like the Whiskey, the major artists do, they don't do the normal route we do. Somebody drops a song by tweeting, the song is everywhere because they understand the media of their time, which is social media, and they go about it. So again, I think we have a system problem. We've paid out artists worth billions on publishing. So we've seen it work, but it's like, how do we figure the system that serves for us? And again, I'm happy we're having the conversation, which is, personally, one thing I see, just rounding up, that I see is that we have to have the right manpower. This is the industry that once you get to a certain level, then you go to work for an agency or you go work for a corporate. Even the most lawyers and the people that work here, they work out of passion. It's not like you pay them by their rates. If you follow by detail for live sport, I don't think you're making money off this. It's from passion, it's a deep. So there's no incentive to keep people to come and sweat. But if you think about the petroleum bill, if you think about all those bills, you think like the Sarz that have been working on this, the people that have been working on this. It's quite unfortunate that this is the industry that once people make money, fashion people make first, the real estate make, automobile make, then what's left, then maybe it trickles down. So I think number one, we need the system. Second, we need the right manpower, the people that understand the communication. You need somebody that is going to do a projection that goes to a bank and say, this is how much we project to make every year. So they understand based on their language. You need the lawyers that are going to give their time, the billable hour to create the system, understanding what trend is happening today. Then we can start having conversation. But the summary is, we can't use 1960 solution, which we have, to solve 2025 problem. If not, we've seen these younger people, they keep on skimming the system, we'll be chasing, we'll keep on chasing. You find out when you go do audit of you have a huge catalog, go and do audit. You find out some people have collected for you. You'll be shocked. Again, but we're using the same 1960, we're trying to, so I think that understanding where we are and jumping in.
Even if you create a system, there is an attitude that comes with it. I think the biggest problem that we have is a lot of people are focused on specific revenues, and there isn't enough attention being paid to this other side of the revenue pool because it's a bit complicated to understand. When you think about the history of how CMOs were developed in the United States, for example, a lot of it was driven by artists that had strong platforms. And they were fighting for their rights and the things that they felt like they earned. And out of that, there was regulation, policies were created until today. A lot of the movement that has happened with songwriters and changes with like the digital revolution and stuff like that, a lot of that is actually being fought by people that are the actual rights owners, the songwriters, the producers, and there's always conversation back and forth happening between labels and the other rights holders. I find that we need a lot more people in the conversation. We need a lot more education around what it is, the different rights that exist and how they're collected. There's also a problem with the structure of the way the CMOs are organized. So for example, for the longest time, we have MCSN and COSON. And you think about some of the rights that, if you look at their memoir, you look at some of the rights that they are collecting on, a lot of it is across board, is blanket. And the question is, are you actually able to collect some of these things that are blanket? Or does it make more sense for us to have systems where, for example, you have PPL and you have PRS, and everyone is sort of specifically handling specific rights, because it's very complicated, right? So we have to create a system that works for what we're doing here. And I think RELP is doing a really good job, and MPAN, they're doing a really good job. And it's made up of people that are passionate about the industry. It's made up of record labels, like Chocolate City is part of it, Maven, there are a couple of people, and we're always looking for more members. And we're always talking about, even on the publishing side and on the sound recording side, how can we help each other create a system that makes sense? So for example, RELP, I know we're in conversation with MCSN about direct licensing. And it's because the system that's working right now, that has been in place for a long time, we're not getting the revenue. So something is wrong or something is broken. And we can't keep trying to fix it when it's complicated, even from a board structure point of view. Like, you have board members that are there for 50 years. I'm exaggerating. The foundation of the system itself is complicated, and it's very hard. And it's not to say that they're not working, it's just that we've given enough time for this to be solved, and it's not being solved, and we can't keep losing revenue. So for example, RELP, we've come together. It has Universal, Sony, Chocolate City, Maven, and I know for MPAN, we have Empower that's about to join, and a few people. And what we're saying is, according to the law, for you to form a collective management system, you need 50 members. If we're less than 50, then we should be able to collect it directly. And so we're creating a direct licensing system to just license our work ourselves, as opposed to this, body that everybody has to go to. So when you have things like festivals, and just the mere fact that we've been working on this for like 2 years or so, and this year we've already started getting people reaching out to us to license our catalog. And you think about like all the time that we spent talking about how to resolve this issue. If we didn't do this, look at how much money we've lost or like we've left on the table, but we just had to think outside the box. How do we solve this problem and make sure that we're doing justice to the catalog that we control? And I think, I'm glad to hear Obi talk about the levy, because that's something that is already in the copyright law, where we're supposed to be getting a percentage of any electronic that comes into the country that can save music. This is something that has been in the law, but it's just not been executed on. Nobody's doing anything about it. So my thing is, if we create a new policy, and I understand this idea of like things are outdated, and obviously we need to be moving forward, and the rest of the world is moving faster than we are. But it's the discipline to actually do what is in the law. And sometimes I'm concerned for NCC. I know they're doing a good job, but are they being empowered to also, if we report some of these things, how do they make sure that it happens? What do they need in order to help us? Do they need laptops? Do they need more people that are skilled and educated? So you have all these regulatory bodies. Some people are not well educated, up to date to what is needed to be done. They don't have the tools, maybe enforcement mechanisms to make sure that when it's reported, it's actually acted on. And so we have a systemic problem. We can create new laws, but if it's not being enforced, we have a problem. So in the same way the system in Nigeria has developed, which is bootstrapping, we are bootstrapping, again, when it comes to collective management with RELP. and we're bootstrapping again with MPAN, seeing how we can, even though there's a law that's there, how can we create without circumventing, but work outside the system that is no longer serving us? Because we just have people that are taking everybody to court, having, exactly, you know, like, exactly, so that we can work with the NCC, the MCSN or COSON can't be upset because, to be fair, how much have we collected in, you know, like, but we have to make sure that the catalog that we're, you know, that we're custodians of are generating revenue. So I think it's thinking outside the box, but also I'm happy that we have representatives of the government to just say, look, we need money to be able to create tracking systems so that we can put it in the radio stations and track ourselves, since it's not being done. If the issue is that, you know, the mechanism is difficult, that's fine. With our platform, we can attract those, you know, investments. We own the platform, and we track ourselves and collect revenue that by ourselves, right? Since, you know, the organizations are having difficulty around that. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get more people to join us, and we're also trying to educate people about the rights that exist. I mean, some artists have been vocal. We think that they can be more vocal. We know what happens in Nigeria when you get on social media and you're vocal about stuff. I think that we need to be a bit more vocal about it. And for us, it's not really about being on the front of a newspaper. We meet regularly, we have the conversations, we have our agenda, we have committees, we have people that are lobbying. I mean, Isioma Idigbe, Baba, Michael, there are people that are on, and we've been doing this for 2 years without getting paid, right? But we have to solve these problems because we know at the end of the day, we benefit from it.
I think without effective leadership, whatever we try and do, it won't work. You can set up a structure and a system, and you can have all the documentation for what's supposed to happen, but if the people that are driving that on a day-to-day basis are not, number one, don't have integrity, if they don't understand the law and what's required to execute what their mandate is, and if they don't know how to put the things in place that are needed, then it won't work. I think the other thing is you do need to have one CMO per right. There are examples on the continent of countries that do this and do this well. I was CEO for SAMRO, South African Music Rights Organization, and between, I think it was 2012 and 2016 whilst I was there, we grew membership from 12,000 to 25,000 people, and we're a composer-based society. So it wasn't a multitude of rights sitting under one CMO. Our focus was performing rights for composers and publishers, and that was it. We had governance, corporate governance that was put in place that allowed for transparency. So if you talk about transparency, but you don't have ways to check and confirm that governance has been followed, then you won't be able to track when things are not being done properly. And you need effective people that know how to do the things that they're mandated to do. I think the problem is that there are multiple collecting societies that are operating that have similar mandates, and they don't have effective leadership. Onda in Algeria is another example of a collecting society that does really well and that has corporate governance, have effective leadership, and they distribute. You can't run a CMO and not distribute money. You can't do that. I don't understand how you can have a CMO that is collecting money, but that is not distributing money, that is not reporting who they're distributing to and why.
It's been suspended, Abi. But they must account for the money they've collected for over 30 years. We're talking of money that ran into billions, right? Abi, I didn't know your money.
All right. Like we all know, for now, COSON is under suspension, and efforts are on to address the issue of monies that have accrued to them even before the suspension. Now, for those steps, I may not be able to disclose them because as we are seated in the room, I don't know who and who are seated here. And you don't lay out your war strategy right in front of your so-called enemies. So that's one. Number two, like I said earlier on, what led to the suspension? I think for me and the NCC is a proactive step that was taken to checkmate. I don't want to be quoted now, but we all know that it amounts to mismanagement.
Of funds.
You understand? And where you refuse to act according to the written rules as put together under the Copyright Act, all these issues are well laid out in that document. And once you go outside them, then to protect the right owners, the commission will have to come in and put a stop to your operations. So to the specifics, like I said, I may not be able to lay them out, but very soon the industry will get to see and hear about, maybe by the time the results start to come out, then everybody will be able to see.
Say it now. The result will be public for everybody to see.
Definitely, if the issue of suspension is public, then definitely the result of investigations and other actions that are ongoing will also come to the public. Because on whose interest are we doing all this? It's for the right owners, and the right owners are in the public there. So the creative industry should reap the fruits of their labor. So there's nothing we are doing at the commission that will work against that vision, to see that every right owner out there is getting something out of their effort.
What is the plan going forward? Because going forward, you're not going to go back to whatever society is not working and say, we're fixing it, right? So you need a new plan of going forward. So RELP is great, right? But RELP talks to one set of rights. RELP talks to neighboring rights or whatever. So that's record labels and that's performers. You need a composers and publishers collecting society. So if there's one that exists, can we understand who the leadership is and what experience the people that are running Impact have, so that we don't make the same mistake of empowering another entity that doesn't have the right leadership, that doesn't have corporate governance set up, that will repeat the same mistakes again. Really and truly, there should be an industry conversation to agree on who should be leadership in these organizations. Vet people. Get the CVs, understand their experience, understand what they've done before and how they understand the specific roles that they're being tasked with, and appoint those people to lead these organizations. If you don't know who's leading the organizations and what the experience is, we're going to repeat the same mistakes again. We'll be 5 years down the line, no money will be distributed, and nobody will be able to account for what's happened to the money that was collected. So if we're starting afresh, let's start afresh the right way. Find right leadership that has experience, that has knowledge, implement those. Then set up corporate governance before you start collecting. Understand what the transparency in the process will be. From the time that you start collecting, how soon must they distribute? What would be the distribution rules? In other words, how do you know who is supposed to receive and what they're supposed to receive? Because if you don't know all those things, when the money is collected and I only paid Dare, how can you argue that I was wrong to only pay him? Because you don't know what the distribution policies are. So set up all the policies and all the corporate governance before you start operating so that everybody knows. We're going to collect from January to June, then we'll distribute from July to December. And we're going to run a distribution for radio, a distribution for TV, a distribution for public performance in venues. The amount that's collected between January and June will be reported publicly, that we collected $1 million. Therefore, by the end of the year, we must know that allowing for a cost for collecting, we're going to distribute $800,000 or $900,000. And at the end of the year, report on the money that was collected and distributed. It's very simple to be able to run the organization if the intention is transparency, corporate governance, and if you have the right people doing the job.
First, Dari, thank you. if one has an idea of what is going to move us all forward, that you come in to make those changes that you want. That's why we're here. We need to actually make sure that these data are captured. And we're just looking at one point. There are several, okay? And all they need from us is the data, and which is exactly what we are putting together. And how are we going to be able to do this? If you, who are the right owners or the composers, do not give them to us. We cannot just carry Dare's name because he's the one who sang the song as the performer, right? And put there without Dare telling us that I did not write the song alone. That data needs to show that, so that we will be able to distill from what we get, that sheet, that Dare has 90%, 70%, or however it may be, 30% of the song, or that Dare owns 100% everything that comes from that work. Why? Because he has paid everybody who had something to do with it, and he now owns the copyright 100%. So this is the main issue. As we speak, MCSN has gone ahead, like I said, and has acquired a monitoring system that is going to monitor the radios and television stations, and the logs would be there for distributions to be made specific. And so Dare would be able to see when distribution is sent to him that Cool FM used my work on so that portion is what is coming to him. And we believe at MCSN that this goes to the root of the issue of transparency, because it is not just about sending money to somebody. They must know that this money comes from Spotify and the work was streamed 100 times. And I'm sure that this is in line with exactly what RELP wants to happen. This is the conversation we should be having. Because I mentioned again, without the data, you cannot access the money. It's easy for us to say, oh, my money is there and all that. But what have you shown to them, these guys that I've mentioned, that you own? Because in the real sense of it, you do not own, I may be wrong, 100% of the work, because you didn't do it alone. You had people who worked with you. And so going forward, that is the real issue. It is not about the issue of the structure. The structure is actually there, but the structure cannot function if the oil that will move that structure to do the right thing and to do it well is not there. Okay? And we have also acquired a distribution system which is a standard with CZAC. Okay? And we call it the C basic system, COSYSNet. This will help us to also deal with the issue of the data. We already have some publishers that have registered. I mean, and they've sent us more than 1,300 works already. And we had to send them the format in which they have to fill their data to us. And once they do that, we would then send what we have to the black box, like you mentioned, to say, these are Nigerians, this is their data, these are their works. And then the system will be able to tell us that for these 5 million works, we have traced your money to the US, to the UK, to South Africa, and all that. And this is what is accrued to you with specific data. And this is what we're going to turn out to you.
Something had been going wrong. I think the essence of this gathering is for us to channel the right path to move forward. If we are going to be seated here doing the blame game, we'll be here till 6 p.m. and we'll have enough blames to go around everyone. Maybe you have enough for NCC, you have enough for MCSN, I might also have enough for everyone seated here. So please, I want to appeal. We already have in that document areas where we have challenges. Can we now begin to look at how to move on? It mentioned something about leadership and all the rest. She mentioned about efforts they are making. Now let this gathering start to put something forward. Let's put something on the table that will guide us. As a regulator, NCC is ever ready to listen and to also push forward whatever it is that will help you to get to the point that you are achieving your aims. And don't forget, in NCC, we are all about protecting the creativity and ensuring that they get what is due to them. So whatever we are able to put together here, NCC is ready to sit down and walk it through. So let's maybe minimize the blame game. Let's begin to talk about how do we do this? How do we do this? How do we do this?
What he said is very, very important moving forward. Yes. That whatever is going to happen, we need proper structure, right? Yes. Proper people taking proper position. Beautiful. That man that just spoken now, MSNBC, nobody is going to submit their content to them. I am speaking for the street. Okay. Just me sitting here, I can become your ambassador and speak to those artists to bring their content. But they will never bring their content. You know why? There is outstanding. People have been abused. Sound Sultan is no longer here. Nobody is going to account for his children and wives. Koson has been suspended. That problem with Koson, you guys must deal with it. I'm sorry that we're going back to that. I'm just telling you, without that happening, no artist will carry their content and give to you. The only people that will be getting content are the record label owners, ally, because you paid for all those contents. So for us to move forward, it all still comes back to you and that man. I see now that he has a functional website. I'm impressed with that. I need NCC to have that. Then we now need to have mobilization for people to know. Because whether you like it or not, PRS is working. PRS is not Nigeria. All they need to do was they came into the country, spend a month, made people individually, went to Kodundu, went to Math Solution, because all those people, they have the content. But the experience everybody had with Koson is still here. I've been to Koson meeting with arts in Lagos and Cutlass. We lost the election. It's always pre-planned because we were all trying to make a change. You remember now, Ikeja. You understand? But when we saw that we can't fight it, we left it now and Kuku face front. Now that you want people now to trust you, to respect you, that first problem with Koson, we must see in the news that, these 7 people, they ate 100 billion. They've collected 80. 10 is going to Sound Sultan. All the people that are, record labels, they collected money from radio stations and everybody on behalf of us. So, hearing that they suspended them is not enough. We need to see proactive, maybe EFCCO will put their faces. These people, we know that. Abi, Baba, that's the only way forward. I'm sorry that you are getting that energy from me. This is the reason why I'm boiling. This is the first time I'm meeting a representative of EFCC, and you are wearing a better suit. You understand what I'm saying? So we needed to, it's not going to be a comfortable conversation. Yeah. But like you said, the energy will be toned down until we know that the criminals in that Koson that gave these people bad name, that is giving these people problem, that is not letting us, the right people come into that position, because people are running from having that, getting into those organizations. Because nothing will happen. People have power, political power, they there too.
I have my challenge with NCC, and I have my challenge with MCSN. So I know that in the last few years, NCC has been incredible. I'll be honest with you. They've really been in every conversation. They're trying to hear, they're trying to understand. They were really fighting with COSON and the like. I think what happened is just that COSON is more aggressive, but I think both organizations have real structural problems. And there's no trust. At least I will speak, the reason why we are not going to, I'm speaking for myself, by the way. I'm not speaking on behalf of RELP. But one of the reasons that I voiced in the meeting why I cannot work with MCSN is because there's a trust issue. There's a trust issue in the leadership, and I feel like there's a lot of people that are shirking responsibility. In order for you to, first of all, these are administrative organizations. They administer rights that we give to them. So if you're complaining to me about data and you're saying that the information is there but you need the data, nobody has reached out to me to say, hi, you're a member of this organization. This is the contact. Where do you create your music? How do you guys work? Who's the contact person? We need updated data. Nobody has come to reach out to me for that. But what's happening is that some people are collecting on my behalf without being clear, like there's no indication that I'm actually a member. We have those situations where people are not. So also you have organizations like radio stations, and they're like, we don't know who to pay because COSON has claimed this song. MCSN is also claiming this song. Why I said that I had a challenge with NCC is that when we were reviewing the MCSN MEMART, we're having conversations as representatives of RELP, and we're requesting specific things. We find out that they actually are not based on the MEMART. They have no right to collect for sound recording. So why is there a representation that they're collecting for sound recording? Their MEMART doesn't give them that right. That is something that the regulatory body should have evaluated and caught on to say, you actually have no right to collect for sound recording. Exactly. So if you're speaking to me and saying, I need your data, first of all, you don't have the right to receive my data because I've not given you, there's a structural problem. So I've not even given you the right to collect on my behalf. The second thing is, even if you have the data, and he's very correct that we have a problem with data. A lot of us do not submit data, but we cannot submit data to organizations that we're not members of. That's the first thing, right? Exactly. Secondly, a lot of this data is publicly available. It's publicly, like you know, that Chocolate City owns Oleko. You know that. So even if you have issues getting information, where is Chocolate City? This is why I'm saying you're shirking responsibility. It's very easy for you to say, oh, I don't have this. Exactly. And my point is like, that is not leadership. And so you cannot gain my trust because you're not doing what you're supposed to do in the first place. You are supposed to come to me to make me excited about wanting, what are the perks of joining your organization? Sell it. Sell it. Yeah. Am I going to get an advance to sign on one new person? What, like, there's no perks. There's not, and that's the thing, like, there are organizations around the world that are established that you can learn how to structure your system if you really are desperate to, you know, attract, but you see that we just have very low standards here. I'm sorry, like, the standard of excellence is quite low. And so we just feel like, oh yeah, come on, give me your data. Like, no, there's a lot more work that you should be doing if you want to collect my catalog that is worth millions. Like, I need a certain level of responsibility. I need you to show me that you can handle this level of responsibility. And if you don't show me, then I'm going to create a system around myself to do that. So it's a very difficult conversation for me to have because I'm like, I'm not interested in the conversation. I do not have trust in you. You've not been transparent with the responsibilities that you had for several years. And the only thing you're telling me is that I should join your organization. I don't want to join an organization that already is structurally flawed. And the MEMART itself is even, what it's showing that you have rights and control over, you are not even sure in the way you're executing your responsibilities. So for me, it's like, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. which is why I was saying that I also have the challenge with NCC, because I feel like these gaps should have been flagged.
Let's be very clear. The systems you require to gain the data are available and have been available for decades. I recall in 2014, we had a meeting with African collecting societies where SAMRO offered its system for other collecting societies to use at no cost. WIPO developed a data solution that they made available for collecting societies to use. So there isn't a shortage of technology to be able to match performance of works. There are also private companies that provide that. So Radio Monitor, for example, they monitor all radio stations in Africa. They can tell you exactly what song is played on each radio station every hour of the day. They can tell you the record labels that release that music. So if somebody wanted to understand who the rights holders were, all you need to do is to call the record label and say, hey, we saw that your songs are being played on Beat FM. Can you give us the composers for these songs? And you will have the data. So there's manual collection that you can do, but there's also automated collection. So let's not use lack of data as an excuse for poor performance. And the societies have been poor performing. That's the reality. They are not transparent, and they are not actively trying to distribute the money that they've collected. And that's the problem.
Now my issue is like, you don't have data. What has happened for all those money that have been collected, like past bucket? Yeah, no accountability on that. Bucket don't full. No be bucket, not drum. Yes, and then you people have right to distribute that. And you just said that like we need, for example, his own has been a long time. What happened to those buckets?
For our, information, a message that was sent to someone who made an inquiry to MCSN. And I would say this with all due respect to everyone here. Thank you very much for reaching out with your observation. We're working around the clock to make things better. Rome was not built in a day. I am reading directly from my message. Kindly go to the history of these international platforms, organizations, and see how old they are. They didn't just start yesterday, as most of them are actually over 100 years old. The least you can find is 80 to 90. For example, these PROs were founded, PRS 1914, BMI 1939, SASEM 1851, ASCAP 1914, SOCAN 1925. However, kindly be rest assured that we will get there. We are still building, and we should join hands to make our own better Nigeria. We remain open to good ideas to move us forward. We appreciate you and the feedback we get as it helps us to improve. And of course, I signed off. Do enjoy the rest of your Sunday. So that message came on Sunday, and I needed to respond to him. Somebody reached out. Haven't seen our Instagram post and was impressed about it and said, look, I think you guys are now working. But a few things he mentioned. And I said, look, this has been taken note of, and we would deal with it. I said, I read this because, when we sit like this and you keep hearing, having to put up a new one. Every time we have these organizations come from outside, the first thing they tell us is how old they are. And you can tell that, for instance, MCSN has been in the struggle, like he said, with the COSON and all that over time. And it was just most recently that we're picking up back, to get things in place. And that's why I said that the issue of monitoring, we now have that in place and all that. So we're not complaining per se. I only told us what the solution to accessing that much money that is on the table. I want to address your concern about the backlog regarding COSON. As soon as MCSN returned, after those times, we have, I mean, in addition to what the NCC doing, we had actually taken a suit against COSON to account for what they had collected over the years. And let me say this, the COSON issue is even much more than what we are seeing or hearing. Yes, what I could do is maybe after, I can't remember now, but don't worry, you and I can have a conversation. I would look at that case and be able to tell you that this is how much we have asked them to account for. And that case is still ongoing as at now, which is to tell you that we are actually also not leaving things on the table. They will come back to account for those monies. I'll quickly go to some of the other areas. Thank you, dear, for your comments. As much as I would agree with you that we ought to have come to you, we all know we're in Nigeria, and I'll give you an example, but excuse my time because I really need to take all this. I was trying to reach a certain composer of a work that I had seen that was infringed somewhere I went to. I searched for his phone number, searched for his publisher and all that. I didn't get it. But every day my mind was troubling me that you needed to get this guy. Fortunately for me, somehow after searching, I found a number that I called. I called him and I spoke to him. And you know we're in Nigeria. This guy felt that what I was saying was too good to be true. So he probably felt, look at them, Nigeria again. Somebody's telling me they use my work somewhere and I can make money out of it. Because he didn't know. Absolutely, sir. And he had gone to search about MCSN over time. And then on a certain day, cutting the story short, he reached out to me and said, please, what can you do for me? And we're doing something as we speak. So I brought that up to say that sometimes we also, Tom, what's his name? Tom, thank you, Godwin Tom, has always said it in every meeting and, roundtable that we have, that how many of you who now know your rights have taken out time, because it is not just enough for you to do the blame game, like we have said, on MCSN. How many of you even know where MCSN's office is? We need to be asking ourselves this question. How many of you have gone in there to try and see? Because we seated here and we'll talk about the whole thing, but we've not come. If I say that we have acquired one equipment or something, why can't somebody just step into the office and say, I'd like to, see what you guys have for us and things like that. So my take is, like you said initially, it's a two-way thing. You point your finger one way and the rest is pointing at you. But like I said, that is not an excuse in any case. So we've noted your point and we'll do more. On the issue of the SAMRO system, yes, I remember at a meeting somewhere in, was it Namibia or so, Botswana, yes. I was there, and SAMRO said it was going to do a pilot based on his system. The sad one for us was that at the time, we were still going through our struggle, and so we were not particularly recognized at that point in time. So that system he just talked about did not come to MCSN. Because if it did, we definitely would have used it. The system actually went to COSON. COSON was used as the pilot or the guinea pig. I think they chose about 3 or 4 African countries, and the records would bear me witness on that. So MCSN at that point in time was not recognized. Even if we were at the meeting, we were not to be seen doing anything that had to do with such rights. And that was where it stopped. So I cannot speak for that system because MCSN was not allowed to use the system. They had actually picked those that they wanted. I think Namibia also, Zimbabwe was part of it, and then COSON. I can still go through my phone way back and to see the minutes of that meeting. So MCSN was not part of it. And like I said, it doesn't also stop us from doing what we have to do. We have gone ahead to get these kinds of systems that is needed to be done. And I believe the issue of data, now that we all know, now that we're in this room, I have said it, it's a necessary thing. A member of my team, the head of the membership, is actually also here, and they have taken a lot of these data, like you said, online, okay? But I just needed to put in there that what you have online may not give a total and true picture of, let us assume, a particular work, and that's it.
Roll it back. Artists are not your slave. We are the master. But we cannot turn what we're creating into money. That's why we need the professional. What we are creating for you was created out of pain. So if I am angry that the revenue is not coming back from COSON or whatever, we know why we are doing that. I don't need to know your office. In front of this guy here now, I just opened my PRS account. Under 1 second, Abi, you saw it.
And I saw the amount.
And you saw the amount. And the amount is tied to my GT Bank account. I don't need to know their office. All I just need to do is register my works. Hold on now. Hold on. You see, from your side, you cannot talk yourself to be good in this matter. From your own side, what you need is very, very simple. Education, mobilization, sensitization. And you have to do it with humility. Because already people's relationship with COSON has been burnt. That young man that even responded to you should have thrown you stone. The band is sitting down here. I'll give you one instance. Is it not P-Man or COSON or whatever? They wanted to have one change of leadership. P-Man. And we all decided that MI is credible and is smart. Let us find one musician to be part of that organization. This Mr. The Band here mobilized all of us, all the musicians. We were more than them. Yes. We were more than them. Do you know that they won the election? Wait now. Wait now. The band is there. He was the one that mobilized. Baba, we went. We mobilized. We got to the place. We were more than them. But they won the election at that place. It was at that time they brought out constitution that you must attend certain meetings for you to vote. Number of meeting attendance. Imagine, with all our numbers, we realized that it was even 3 that can vote. So we were disappointed. And guess what? It remains the same till today. That's why nobody will go to P-Man. P-Man is a dead organization a long time ago. So collecting money, artists have found out different ways that, okay, Nigeria, they chop. They've just faced BMI. I have direct number to the Ogas BMI. ASCAP, PRS. So why now? We want this money to be collected here, but we don't trust you. So for us to trust you now, you must be humble. 1, show us your card. Be humble. Sensitize people. Speak to people. Meet record labels, independent labels. Interface with these people. Partner with these people so that they can regulate you. You understand what I'm saying? Now, people will now start coming to you with their content. It is not only you. MTN is there too. CRBT. You see, say we know. They don't, no, you know they talk again. No. Let other people talk.
I'm a selfish person, but I know that I'm gaining from you. I will protect you while being selfish. But what we have is selfish people that are just selfish, right? So they probably don't see any benefit to themselves getting this right. Hence the reason why we are here. For example, you talked about the person with the message and the years. The way I like to see it is, if PRS or for BMI, for example, has been there since 1914, these were the guys that first figured this out. Safe to say that we don't need 150 years to figure it out. That's number one. I just wanted to get that out of the way, because what that tells me and what that shows me, even in this room, is that this aspect, there's no face that represents me in the space. So there's no one that can say, oh, we want to ignore, we want to be lax, we want to put all these processes and protocols in place. But I used to make music. I know what it's like to sit and not know what's going to happen. Do you get what I mean? So that's one aspect. The second, with respect to, you kind of gave us Music Submission 101, right? My publisher started working on my catalog this year, properly. And they did registrations. Sometime this year, a random organization reached out to me from France. In fact, they reached out to a friend. They mailed an organization I work with, got the number of a friend. That friend came to me and said, oh, Victor, these people, I don't know them from anywhere. They said that they found your name attached to a song, a bunch of songs, and they have money for you. So that's how I started talking to them. Interestingly, I sent them to my publisher. Publisher made me understand that this particular royalty has nothing to do with the publisher. This is you and them direct. So I started talking with them. I got my money. Good news, right? But it's fine now. So my point, why I pointed this one out, is if MCSN, for instance, says, oh, I need to come to them, I'm telling you that somebody desperately searched me out. That person has never spoken to me. In fact, the person they spoke to could have, tried to play around it, find a way to benefit from it. The person said, no, Victor, I don't know these people out. They are reaching out for you and they have money. So I feel like that, it's like a joint, it links in the same way, because the people who sit in the NCC and the MCSN, they're not me. So their perspective is all put together, so to say. I hear lovely ideas. It feels like we're speaking from, I would like to call it a macro level, but I'm trying to make it basic here. You see, when you guys say you need us to communicate, I'm trying to tell you that there are people that don't. They just do the work, and they are proactive about it. Understand that I sorted out the publishing conversation, let's say January. These people reached out to me in March. If it was Nigeria, I would not even know that existed, because someone would say, we're still working out how to put it in place. We're having meetings, we're having conventions. People are starving. I make money from what I do, but I work with a lot of people that don't. So I don't know if this adds to this conversation in a very human way. I appreciate these structures and this conversation, but I'm telling you that the organization does not represent me. It has never represented me. It does not have my face. So if it even asks me for something, I'm like, what? I don't need to talk to you, because you are over there. If I ask, okay, what are the struggles that I most likely encounter as a producer? You can't tell me. So you cannot tell me you have the, emotional investment enough to go, look, this thing is taking 6 months. We need to speed it up. We need to talk to the people we need to talk to. We need to go to people. Do you understand? I'm a producer. If you want to reach out to, let's say, producers that look up to VTEK, for instance, you want to come to VTEK and talk to VTEK so you get to the others. But what you are saying, in a sense, is VTEK still has to come to you or make himself known to you. It's almost like that parent that doesn't do anything for you, but when you grow older and you're like, Dad, he said, you didn't come to me, but you're a parent. There are some things you just know. So I feel like I have to point that out. It's not so much a pointing out the problem. By the way, you talked about the issues and we moved to solutions. It is unavoidable because these conversations don't happen a lot. In fact, I was excited when I heard NCC is coming. because we all, one way or another, are directly in the business. But I feel like this is the face of the government enough to be able to say, look, stories plenty, and there are talks that can be had. But I agree with him in a sense. There's something he alluded to, where we also need people that are here with you. Because I don't know you. I genuinely cannot say, oh, this man gets even what I'm saying right now enough to go, okay, I'm going home. I need to take all of these things, and I need to be able to say, okay, look, how do we make it faster? How do we start being proactive? Like if you all were doing some of these things, some of these convos simply won't exist. It will be addition to, not advice to improve or change. You get, that's as much as I wanted to say.
We have been going through problems, and I want to give everybody here the chance to air their views, okay? We want to keep the problem section as short as possible, and we've gone overboard a little bit, but we've stated important facts. So for those that have just come in, please, if you have anything you want to add, maybe 1 minute, just speak to the issues that have been affecting you regarding royalty collection, the rights management ecosystem. If anybody has some pertinent points, we are going to go into the next phase, which is going to address solutions. And some of those solutions, ideas towards solutions have been proffered. So I'm going to give the opportunity to our new guests.
For me, in the last 3 years, I've worked with several creatives, and I mean on the back end of creating music. There are people that do not want to release music as artists, but they want to make a living off being songwriters and being producers, right? And I've seen how the quality of creativity has dipped. I've seen how creatives are a lot more materialistic, you know, and for those that are in the A&R phase of things, you know that now to clear a song and you're based in Nigeria, you're paying in dollars for certain producers and for certain songwriters. And this is because these people do not believe that after this song is released, despite signing the split sheets and all of these things, that they would actually make some good return out of these songs. And aside that, you know, when you set up boot camps and you say, hey, creatives, come and create, you know, you find that some people struggle, you know, because it's like, okay, so this is my 100th boot camp this year. If I come, I write 10 songs, right? Out of these 10 songs, maybe 4 songs are released. As a songwriter, I've written mad bangers. In short, when I enter my car and I'm going to work, I hear my song on the radio, right? I can brag and come on a panel like this and say, I'm a songwriter. I wrote da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But I can't make a living off my creative work. And you've also seen that with the lives of the legends, the people that they don't need to be billionaires, but they have made impact in the industry from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 20 years ago, and they cannot afford health insurance. You know, so I wanted to just expand on this because I want you to be able to understand, you know, what it is that we're actually dealing with. And until we fix it, you know, and it is not the creative's job to come to the organization. If the organization claims to represent the rights of creatives, the creatives are a priority. You go look for them, right? You go make sure that, okay, these things are sorted. We don't have to have, this is probably the 5th roundtable or panel session or something that one person from MCSN, you know, will come, we'll have these conversations, and we go home, right? 2-3 years in the row, right? And it's getting worse by the day. I have creatives charging $10,000 for a song that will be released in Nigeria, right? That the label would probably not even recoup on marketing expenses, despite how successful that song is. And until we put these systems in place, we're going to suffer. So I just wanted to expand on what he said when he said, you know, people are making money off pain. Because for someone to write 100 songs and hear 50 songs on radio, and people are vibing to the song, but he can't afford to take his child to the clinic, or he dies because of a basic thing that money can solve, you know, that systems like this should cater to. That's a problem. That's a huge problem.
CMOs, we find, have used this to be able to at least manage their operations, day-to-day operations, build the trust with artists and the likes. And just to say again to MCSN or to any other CMO that might be interested, it is available, it's freely available, and WIPO does provide that. We have received a lot of requests also from Nigerian artists or even like business managers to say, can these also be deployed outside the CMOs, just for people to, as it were, learn, see how it could work, within like academic settings as well. And we're also ready to do that. I just want to say that in terms of building that trust, these kind of transparent systems, we have designed something and it's freely available. I just wanted to make that point as well.
Even individually amongst us, we have issues. And we need to now have that particular alliance that is structured under it. You can now go and put your things in there and then sort it out. That is my own one piece of advice, and I think that's the solution for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sipho, for all you have said. I'm going to key into what Diban just said, that as we're all seated, when we talk about the black box and we talk about the money and all that, I know that your Samro, right, used to be, Asha knows that till date, Samro, as he used to be, has not paid MCSN. I don't know if they paid Koson, but we'll get there. Has not paid MCSN anything. So that's why I said there's still money that is lying there. If that money over time will be there, we would know. But like Diban said, we will collect the money. So I can tell you your money is still there. Samro is holding just as PRS and the rest are holding the money. We have written a letter to PRS. When we talk about transparency and all that, we've written to them. You have collected monies of Nigerian creators and publishers and all that. Where is the money?
We don't know the solution now. The immediate thing, I think it was Sipho, because I know I people with no miss, I know we're still taking it there. Instead, make we form small people where we trust. It no go dey this thing first. For now, it can change, and I'm serious. We'll pick the people, because we talk about meeting regularly. It's very expensive. Someone is footing the bill for this. So if we are going to meet as an organization or as an industry, there must be someone that's footing the bill. So that's what I'm saying to us, that moving from here, with the United Nations partnership with Creative Power Alliance for Peace, we can take it there because that's what they're structured for. Do you understand? So all these things, now let's put it there. When we structure that, no worry, any money where you get for us, we'll collect them. We don't need to talk to you people to say that. We are the industry. And the only truth is that, like you said 10 years ago, we did it that time. We can't, is for us to be able to get this, the real stakeholders, the acts, not producers alone, but the artists, that when they come and they shout, you will see that policy changed immediately. We need to carry them along. And you can't carry them along when you're talking this kind of talk.
Yeah, I want to quickly summarize some of the things that have been said here, because this issue is very complicated, it seems, because like the band said, like Abuchi said, there are even rifts between everybody here. So it's the organizer's job now to go and figure out how to formulate a working body, because it's like a referee. Like, you need to bring someone to lead this industry that has no stake in it because of the issues. Because of the issues that are on ground. So we can be here next week discussing the same thing if you don't, bring the right folks. We are the band. We are going to have the opportunity. We will have the opportunity, and let me just wrap it all up. Okay, like I said earlier, the primary objective of all of this is not to have a talk and go. That was never the objective. So, and I appreciate Sipho saying what he has said. The next step for us, okay, as organizers of this event, really is to ensure that we are able to get a working group put together from this round table, right? And then we're going to now put together all that we have discussed and all the ideas that we've not discussed yet. Okay, put those together in some kind of working paper. And then we're going to address these with the rest of the industry as well, because we do need to get more voices as well. I think there are allies. Dibanj has proffered a good ally as well. The U.S. consulate is there. and they have also said that they would like to support what we're doing, and we're fine with allies. We welcome all the support from across the board. So we're going to convene and invite others, but most importantly, this working committee, this working group, whatever you want to call it, is going to be able to address these issues directly with the NCC and other stakeholders. Asha mentioned is a multi-ministerial issue, of course, NCC being key. So these are our next steps, okay? Within the next 30 days, we intend to have, another conversation. Well, that'll be sometime in the new year. We really appreciate everybody spending their time. We've been here for a couple of hours, and we know that your time is precious. Thank you for coming. For now, farewell and God bless.